What's up, everybody? This is the Pro Wrestle Zone podcast coming back at you with another exciting episode. And for the first time in probably a week, no, not even a week, about 4 weeks, maybe a month, maybe a little bit
Yeah,
over a month.
it's been over a month.
Myself, Dan the Beast, and the DVD Freak are continuing on with the 2002 WWE pay-per-view rundown. And picking back up where we left off, we are here. We are at the King of the Ring that took place at the Nationwide Arena in Columbus, Ohio. Sometime in 2002, I believe the date was June 17th, if I'm not mistaken.
June 23rd.
June 23rd. All right, a couple days off. But, okay, so giving a rundown of this pay-per-view, I think for the first time ever, and I believe the only time ever, first of all, DVD Freak wants to do a shot.
Yeah, I got to do the shot of the, let's see what we're drinking tonight. I got me some Gentleman Jack. I don't like whiskey, but fuck it. I'm a vodka guy. But yeah, here's to Maven's failed career.
And as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, DVD Freak's trying to stay somewhat sophisticated by drinking Gentleman Jack Daniels whiskey. So,
yes.
Somebody got to keep it under control. I mean, it's usually me, but, But anyway, going into this pay-per-view, I think for the first time and only time, I believe, the King of the Ring winner was promised a WWE title match at SummerSlam.
I actually really like that because, SummerSlam is your second biggest pay-per-view of the year. And the main event, should be not like nowadays it's just kind of thrown together. Maybe you'll get a number one contenders match on Raw or a Battle Royal. But no, King of the Ring, that's a tournament. It's high stakes. It actually made the tournament feel important. And it made that SummerSlam match legitimate by saying, yes, this is the number one contender because he won the King of the Ring tournament, the most prestigious tournament in all of wrestling in 2002 at least. And, like I said, it gave that importance. Nowadays we're lucky if we even get a tournament. If you do, it's just kind of for no reason.
And referring to it was Brock Lesnar who was the last King of the Ring tournament winner for a long time, as this was the last King of the Ring pay-per-view, though we would never see the pay-per-view done again. The King of the Ring concept has been, revisited a couple times throughout these past couple of years, as it was revived back in 2006. I got the years written down here. 2008, 2010 with Sheamus, and I believe 2015. Oh gosh, 2015.
Wade Barrett.
Wade Barrett.
Yeah.
And then obviously recently, King Corbin. And
I forgot that even happened. I forgot he won King of the Ring.
We don't even watch the current product, so that's that just blows proportions. But usually the King of the Ring concept nowadays is usually the purpose of giving a heel a gimmick. You give a boring heel a gimmick. Like, not saying that William Regal was boring because he was one hell of a technical athlete. Not saying Booker T was boring, but what kind of gimmick did he need besides saying sucker, throwing up the 5 and doing a spin-a-rooney and talking about Charmel without, getting banged in the back by Kurt Angle? But that's a different story. But I think the concept of the King of the Ring tournament is good, but it's rarely well executed and frequently one of the worst pay-per-views of the year, this year in particular. And this was around the time WWE was kind of going through like a turmoil only because of the name change. And they were just going through the process of, hey, we have certain superstars on one brand. You want to catch these superstars, you have to catch them on SmackDown. You want to see these superstars, you have to catch them on Raw. And like I said, at the same time, they got the F out, which, some of those commercials that they were airing They were pretty funny. They were making it seem like WWE was maturing. Oh, let's get the when mature, let's give it a nice smooth cut, give it that nice bowl cut. But obviously throughout the other half of 2002, it would get extremely better, which me and DVD Freak are very excited to. We're getting close. I think
Yes.
once we reach Vengeance, well, smooth sailing. You know, I
Yep.
mean, if you don't see Randy Orton or John Cena on your pay per view list, it's not good. But anyway, before I get into the match card, the intro. Something that really bothered me about the intro into this pay per view. You're going through the years of every winner of the King of the Ring. You got 1993 with Bret Hart, 1994 with Owen Hart. You skipped 95. Why are you skipping years if you're, celebrating all these champions of the King of the Ring throughout the years? Wouldn't you want to acknowledge somebody like Mabel or, the 98 or 99 was also skipped? You skipped Ken Shamrock. You skipped Billy Gunn. God forbid the guy was still in the company. At least acknowledge him, even though he's in this, kind of a oddball tag team with Chucky and Rico. But why is that?
I think Mabel, that's just one of those ones where Vince is like, you know what? That was garbage. So we're just going to basically they're just going to go through the illustrious winners. Ken Shamrock, I'm guessing because of his transition into MMA, they just wanted to bury him probably.
But you know what? That wasn't even the point either, because by 2002, Ken Shamrock was with the TNA promotion. TNA had just started about this time.
Yeah, well, maybe that's another reason.
Yeah.
I feel like they just wanted to bury him.
And
And
then,
I mean, yeah, I do believe if you're gonna explore history, you have to explore all of it, the good and the bad. And WWE is known for making their own continuity. So
right. And, so something else that I believe is rarely even talked about nowadays is like prior to the King of the Ring pay per views, there was other King of the Ring tournaments that happened, prior to, you know, the pay per views being established. Because obviously, the year before the first King of the Ring pay per view, Bret Hart had won the King of the Ring in '92. So why
mm-hmm.
not acknowledge like, hey, Bret Hart's a former King of the Ring winner. You had other guys like Harley Race, I believe Ted DiBiase, um, I believe Hacksaw Jim Duggan, if I'm not mistaken. And oh god, um, for some reason in my head I'm thinking Don Morocco, but I could be wrong. But obviously there was like, the tournament was already well established by like late '80s, I want to say. So beats me.
Yeah, I mean it's like the Dark Royal Rumble matches; they don't really acknowledge those. So
And just going through the whole turmoil again, throughout the whole first half of this year. Obviously they had a big loss as it came to losing Stone Cold, walking out of the company. Obviously, he was I'm guessing Stone Cold was supposed to be a part of this pay-per-view, but until he found out like, oh, you got to put Brock over in a qualifying match, it's like, what? No, I'm not doing that. And that led to a predicament of, somebody in Stanford, most likely Vince, picking up that phone. Hey, Rock, I know you're doing a movie, but you think you could come back for like a couple months until we get things straightened out, or at least get this new guy, the gold around his waist? And obviously that led to another comeback, which nobody really thought he was going to have an in-ring comeback. And that was when Shawn Michaels returned to the company. And going by this pay-per-view, I believe he was only back in the company 2 weeks prior to this event. And even prior to this, he had like these manager roles. He was like the commissioner at one point. He was involved in a couple of special guest referees matches in like 2000. while still being aligned with DX. But this was really around the time they didn't really have that much star power. I mean, you had the Undertaker, but you really think Undertaker was really going to hold it for that long, knowing that Undertaker is practically injury prone by this point? And then you just brought back Hulk Hogan. Who wants to see a 100-year-old Hulk Hogan hold the belt for like 5 to 6 months? He couldn't even hold it for an entire month.
Yeah, they that whole, we've already ranted about this, but the whole Hulk Hogan title reign with the undisputed title, that was fucking worthless. My God,
Right.
like that. If you're gonna have him hold it for a month, don't even do it. Oh, God.
All right. So let's get into one of these qualifying or one of the semifinal matches here. We had Rob Van Dam, who was representing Monday Night Raw, versus Chris Jericho, who was representing SmackDown at the time. And yeah, this was. I thought the first half of this match was pretty bland. Uh, Fortunately, it does build to something pretty enjoyable in the second half. Um, I think RVD still seems to be finding his way in WWE at this point, as he was only in WWE for maybe like a good year now. And he had some pretty decent matches. Obviously, he had his battles, but like Jeff Hardy, he had that hardcore championship match with The Undertaker at Vengeance. I wouldn't necessarily say he had the proper first WrestleMania opponent. Like I said, nothing against William Regal, but I would want to put somebody in RVD's caliber who can practically keep up with RVD. Because, something that I've mentioned in the past before, that word that keeps coming out of my mouth, styles clash. And obviously, RVD has like the mixed martial arts background, with a lot of technical and high flying ability. As William Regal was, he was that brawler. He came from the streets, but he still has that technical wrestling ability where he's still able to get a hold of, still get a hold of you in the ring. But and then the matches that he had with Eddie Guerrero. And I think over the course of the year, his performances have probably been a little bit disappointing. Throughout the first half, I would say, with the exceptions of like some of the Eddie Guerrero matches. But I think by the time and half comes around, that's when he starts getting, the proper pushes. Obviously he had like that match with Undertaker, WWE Championship. Everybody thought RVD won. Oh, RVD is the new WWE Champion. Nope. Ric Flair comes down. His foot was on the rope. Oh, fuck you. What a great start that would have been. But obviously it was still early to be. But obviously, like going down the road, he would be in the first Elimination Chamber match. He would have a feud with Triple H for the World Heavyweight Championship, which has not been revealed yet, as we're still in the first portion. But like I said, I mean, I think like the first half of the year for Van Dam had been pretty disappointing, particularly when you look at who his opponents have been. So I don't know what you think about that.
Um, I'm gonna be in the minority here. I don't think he ever quite hit his potential in WWE. I can't name a 5-star RVD match in WWE. Obviously, he missed WrestleMania 21. I think he missed WrestleMania. Was he at WrestleMania 20? I think he was in the tag match, right? The tag team turmoil match.
Yeah, he was in He was in the Raw.
The
The
Fatal
Raw
4-Way,
turmoil.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, he missed WrestleMania 21. He came back big. He won Money in the Bank, and he had his moment in 2006. And then obviously he was arrested. He had a bunch of problems. They took the belt off of him, and he never recovered. His last feud was with Randy Orton in 2007, and they had a decent series of matches. Actually, my favorite RKO ever was, I think it was on Monday Night Raw, where RVD just sold it beautifully. That's my favorite RKO of all time. And then he came back in 2013, and it's just like it was mainly pre-show matches. I think he faced Del Rio, and I mean, I don't think he ever hit his maximum potential, and I'm not really saying that's WWE's fault, and it's not RVD's fault. I think both parties kind of messed up on his WWE run. I really wish we
Right.
could have. I really wish we could have seen the ECW RVD. And I feel like we only really got that one time, and that was him and Cena at One Night Stand. I think that was kind of the peak, and he only kind of went downhill from there.
Right. And, you can't necessarily blame WWE for, his downhill at the time in 2006, because obviously his title reign was very short until I believe he was pulled over one day with possession of marijuana with Sabu, and that led to Big Show defeating RVD for the ECW title, probably like a week later or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he only defended it once, right, against Edge. Like that was it.
Yeah, you know what? I think it might have been the WWE Championship match. Yeah, yeah, because I think there was like a triple threat match on Raw between Van Dam, Cena, and Edge. I think it was either Raw or Vengeance.
I thought Vengeance was just. I can look here. I thought that was just Edge. I might be wrong though. Let's see here. Yeah, it was RVD versus Edge for the WWE Championship at Vengeance 2006 in a singles match.
Okay. Now, why is it? I think this is a question that really stumbled my mind today. I mean, obviously, by the time you reach a certain standpoint in your career, like when you can officially say that you've made the big time, why is it that places like WWE, probably in particular WWE, withholds certain superstars from doing, the moves that they were made for that made them big? Like,
Okay,
why is this so limited?
that's exactly the reason why. Because Vince doesn't want to admit that you made it big outside of WWE. To him, WWE is the be-all, end-all. Everything else is shit. That's in his mind. That's why he changes people's names. That's why he holds people's names. That's why he tries to trademark every little thing. It's because they make their own continuity. If it were up to him, WWE invented wrestling in like the 1800s, and that's what it's been since. That is Vince's, in his mind, that's what he wants to do. Sports entertainment, that's his own little world. And he wants to imagine that everyone there is his little puppets. Because, you look at everyone in ECW, like even nowadays, like when everyone came from TNA, most of them got thrown in NXT and they got buried to prove a point that they didn't make it. That they still had to pay their dues, even though they were big TNA stars. Look at Bobby Roode. I was pissed off about that one. Look at Eric Young. Even Samoa Joe. He should have had a world title run. And Nakamura. There's so many examples of established talent coming to WWE, and they were just on main event. Like Ricochet, I think he's on main event now. I mean, it's sad, and that's why I say WWE's death sentence. And whenever I see a report that an indie wrestler is going to WWE, I'm like, well, they had a good run.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, it was nice knowing you.
Nowadays, it's like good luck. If this was maybe like 4 years ago, I don't initially think we would have that mindset, because you really got to think of the people who were coming in like 4 years ago. Guys like Bobby Roode, Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, Shinsuke, Anderson, and Gallows. I mean, out of that whole entourage, one of them actually made it.
Well, why do you think? Why do you think that is? Why do you think AJ made it?
because of the ovation he got at the Rumble.
Yeah. Well, you have to
And
look.
I think the only other reason too is because he made himself well established outside of TNA after he left. Because obviously he would go back to Ring of Honor, and then he did some stints in Japan.
Yeah.
So,
Which is probably my favorite version of AJ Styles, personally.
and I think he got over because of the huge pop that he got. He came in at number 3. All you see is Roman Reigns' expression. That's all the camera was focusing on. You hear this music. You're probably sitting there thinking, who the fuck is this? You hear that huge pop, and all of a sudden AJ Styles comes out. So whether you were there live or whether you were watching at home, he got over that night. And the
Yeah.
fact that he was already in a championship match that same night, because that Royal Rumble was for the WWE Championship.
Yeah. And,
So,
he made it decently far. I think he made it to probably like the last 10 people, maybe last 15.
yeah.
Like, he didn't go crazy far, but yeah, it's always a shame because, WWE, it's not the be all end all. Trust me. It's probably the worst place you could be right now. I think I'd rather be wrestling in my backyard. Honestly, I'd rather wrestle for, not that I'm a wrestler, but let's say I am a wrestler. I'm the kind of person I'd rather make $100 a week and have a good time, as opposed to make $1,000 a week and have a 3-minute match on main event. That has to
Right.
be so choreographed and so puppetried. Like, that's what it is. I don't want to get into a WWE rant. We're supposed to be talking about the fun 2002 times, all right?
Right. Even though this is probably like the worst 2002 pay-per-view.
Yeah, it
Um,
is.
so after the match, Lawler would go into the ring for an interview. He would ask RVD who he would rather face in the finals. And RVD's just like, whatever, dude. Whether I face Lesnar, whether I face Test, whether I face Godzilla, whatever. And, he tries to go for the RVD rant. Jericho attacks him from behind, and, Jericho's basically just having a bitch fit. He's throwing on the walls of Jericho. You hear him screaming, I'm king of the world. I'm king of the world. Like, okay. Like, we get it.
No matter who I'm facing, regardless, I'm smoking a bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was back before Jericho was a fucking 300-pound jack off. But anyway, what's the next match?
Going into the second semifinals match, we had Brock Lesnar, who was representing Monday Night Raw, taking on Test, who was representing Thursday Night SmackDown. And, something, before I even actually get into this, I feel like Test is the only one who seems out of place here within this whole tournament.
I thought the same thing. I was thinking to myself, who in the crowd thinks Test is going to win right now? Like, I think this was kind of an obvious. I think once RVD won, they're like, okay, Brock's winning, because it could have been Jericho. It looked very unlikely, but RVD sure as hell ain't winning. So I think at that point, the second match in here, I think it is pretty obvious Brock is going to win the entire thing. And it's just like, why test? Like, that's just, at least put Brock up against someone that you're like, all right, maybe he will lose. There were so many people you could have had him face. So it's just kind
Well,
of it baffles me.
I think one of the potential opponents who it was supposed to be was Edge. And Edge wasn't a part of this King of the Ring pay-per-view due to him recovering from an injury that he suffered in the steel cage match against Kurt Angle. So,
Yeah, he was out till after 2000.
July.
Yeah, and then
Yeah,
obviously he would go on to miss WrestleMania 19 and WrestleMania 20. He missed a chunk of time.
right. So I think the build-up was definitely worth it. 2 years on a hiatus. But getting into this, Brock Lesnar moves on to the final. Um, quite a slow match, I would probably say. And there wasn't a lot to it. And I believe it was also difficult to see Test as a legitimate threat to Brock. Um, the finishing sequence with Test's, big boot was quite good, but, not awful, but nothing special, because you really got to look at Test's arsenal, you know. All he had was like a big boot. He would do like a gut wrench power bomb, and then he had a pump handle slam. And I really feel like this was one of the missed opportunities. Not saying that he was going to win King of the Ring, because obviously everybody knew it was going to Brock. This was the reign of Brock, tour of 2002.
Hell
And
yeah.
but the way I see it, it was like after Test won that, that battle royal in 2001 at Survivor Series, not fired for a whole year. He couldn't get fired. I mean, couldn't you at least build up to something?
Yeah, and another problem I had with this match, both semifinal matches were back to back, and then
Yeah.
you had like 2 hours until the finals, or probably like an hour and 45 minutes. But I even have a huge complaint about the finals. We'll get to that. But yeah, I felt like this could have been paced better. This didn't feel like a King of the Ring pay-per-view. You only had 3 King of the Ring matches out of 9. That's only 1/3. What the hell? And I just really wish they would have put this maybe after the Flair Eddie Guerrero match, just to kind of pace it a little better, but whatever.
Right. So after this match, we would have a backstage segment. Coach would go into the Raw locker room and, go into the Raw locker room to get their views on 2 Raw superstars making it into the, King of the Ring finals. Like, all right, you got Raw superstars. Raw's looking dominant so far. And, he would ask, who do you think's going to win? Coach bumps into Bubba. Bubba's like, oh, I would have loved to seen RVD, but he had no chance against Brock. Brock's a tough kid. And, then, Bubba, wants to steal the limelight here, talking about, oh, I wish I was in the King of the Ring, going for a WWE Championship match at SummerSlam. Now, obviously, this was like the first failure of trying to push trying to push Bubba Ray as a singles competitor. And you know what? It really never went anywhere after they split anyway, because as soon as they split the Dudley Boys, they already aligned Spike up with Bubba. Because Vince already knew, like, oh, yep, I fucked up. While you have Devon playing a pastor or reverend on SmackDown, taking everybody's money,
With post AV or OVW Leviathan.
Yeah, Deacon Batista.
Oh god. But yeah, this next match, I wanted to bring this up. We had Jamie Noble with Nydia versus the Hurricane for the Cruiserweight title. This match went 11 minutes and 38 seconds, and the only reason I stayed entertained was the commentary about JR living in a trailer. You had this was King at his finest. Like, JR and the King had the perfect chemistry. And they're talking about JR living in a trailer. He's talking about how ugly Nydia is. Like, this, like, honestly, you just kind of get lost in the commentary. This match is just okay.
Right.
You did have a really good neckbreaker spot off the top rope that actually popped the crowd.
Yeah.
The crowd, that was one of the biggest pops of the night. And yeah, this was just, like I said, this match just felt out of place for me. I don't know about you.
Just a bit. But before going further into the match, I just want to give people here the backstory. So basically, the backstory here was Nydia, who was part of Tough Enough season 1. I believe it was season 1 because I think she won with Maven. This was her debut, and she was known as the stalker ex-girlfriend of the Hurricane. And after finding her in his locker room, Nydia had a new boyfriend, Jamie Noble. obviously attacks the Hurricane. Noble would then beat Kidman, thanks for an assist from Nydia to become the number one contender leading into this match. And the whole build, it's a really long promo on this show, I would say. I mean, it's really hard to tell if they are trying to hype the cruiserweight division or if they're just looking to kill time. And obviously, during the duration of the story, Hurricane's mask was stolen. Nydia was wearing them as lingerie. Hurricane would come out, I believe, like the last week before the King of the Ring pay-per-view, unmasked, choke slams Jamie Noble, and that was practically, I believe that was probably like one of the last times we would see Helms unmasked until late 2005. But yeah, like you said, I really feel like this match seemed so out of place, and this was Jamie Noble's pay-per-view debut, in which he wins the cruiserweight title in his debut pay-per-view match. And let me put it this way: not a bad match, but the crowd weren't into it, and except that spot, I would say. And I think, let me see. I think it was quite dull until the neckbreaker off the top rope. Disappointing because I know that both men could perform at a lot better, and this was a big opportunity for both of them to do so.
I just don't really think they had chemistry.
Yeah.
There's times where two great performers just don't have chemistry together, and I think this is the case. But I don't want to get too off topic here, but I am curious. What are your thoughts on Hurricane Helms or Gregory Helms? Both characters.
Favorite cruiserweight of all time.
Okay.
I don't mention that, but if somebody were to bring up like the cruiserweight division, I mean, I would consider like Gregory Helms like one of the top guys.
I would too.
I always liked the way he performed in the ring. Technicality wise, I always felt like he could tell a great story. I always felt like I feel like whatever gimmick they gave him, he'll make it work. So
Yeah.
when they gave him the Hurricane gimmick after a short run with the Sugar Shane Helms during the Invasion storyline, it was like he made it work. I think he felt a little bit out of place at first because during like that duration of his superhero character, he was teaming up with Lance Storm. Obviously, that was during the whole Invasion storyline. But then later on, he would get his trusty sidekick, or I thought she was trusty, Mighty Molly, which led to a bad frying pan accident at the WrestleMania 18 hardcore match. But overall, I mean, his career kind of dwindled down probably like those last 2 years as Hurricane persona. But as soon as they said, hey, turn heel, it was like, boom. It was like right then and there. And he was basically the shining light of that 2006 Royal Rumble invitational match. They basically had every who was in that match, who was a former Cruiserweight champion, participate in that match. But everybody was a SmackDown guy. Nobody was expecting a Raw guy take in that match because Gregory Helms was still a Raw guy at that point until he won the title. But overall, I've always loved Helms, and I always found him a professional, sophisticated comedian outside of the ring. I do follow him on Twitter and Instagram, and he always seems to be so engaging with his fans. But in ring technicality, like probably one of the best to ever do it.
Yeah, I always compare him to like Matt Bourne. You're given a horrible character and you turn it into something that's liquid gold. I love heel Doink the Clown. I fucking love that. And I love Hurricane. You're like, if you told me, hey, you're going to be a superhero, I'm like, oh, goody. But you know what? He turned it into something great. He had a very memorable little program with The Rock. He was tag team champions with Kane. And then, of course, he had Rosie, who was Roman Reigns' father. Little fun fact. For a lot of people don't know that. But,
Right.
yeah. And like you said, he was the face of that cruiserweight division, like '06 and, very early 2007. He would even, wasn't he in a dark match at WrestleMania 23 with Ric Flair and Carlito, and who was the other guy in that match?
Oh gosh.
I can look it up right here. Okay, let's see. I got the WrestleMania 23 tin. Let's see. But yeah, it's I always thought it was unfortunate because I think nowadays a lot of people just see him as that Hardy's guy, at the Hardy compound. Okay, yeah, it was Gregory Helms and Chavo versus Carlito and Ric Flair at WrestleMania 23, the dark match. So, kind of an odd team up there, but that's kind of
Right.
like that's kind of the last time he was relevant in WWE. And then, now, he makes his occasional cameo appearances, at a Rumble or at an AEW event. And, he was a producer for a while. And if you're going to have a producer, that's a guy that you want to have as a producer. And unfortunately, he was part of the Black Wednesday talent cuts back in, April. And I guess he's kind of just floating around right now. I would love to see him take on a role in AEW, though. Let him be a manager. Why not? See what happens.
Yeah. I mean, let's see. I mean, he hasn't really been in too much in-ring competition or in-ring roles probably since his last stint in TNA, which was
Yeah.
probably about 2006, maybe a little bit earlier than that.
Yeah.
But boy, we talked about oddball matches. Let's get into this next match because
Oh
this
boy.
one was very, very off. I feel like I'm watching WCW from 1999 again.
Yep.
You have Ric Flair taking on Eddie Guerrero. Now, prior to this, there was a backstage interview. Eddie Guerrero basically just said that he was in his prime and he was going to send Flair to the retirement home. Nothing new there when it comes to fighting old guys, right? But before we get into the detail of this match, this was something that I wanted to bring up earlier. Eddie was supposed to be heading into a feud with Steve Austin during this time.
Fuck me.
However, as I said, Austin walked out of the company after being unhappy with the creative direction after refusing to lose to Lesnar, which they were setting him up for. Um, as such, they had to rush Eddie into something new, unfortunately, which that's probably why it led to Guerrero and Benoit teaming up by that point. And Benoit and Eddie basically blamed Flair for Austin walking out. And so that's how the feud started. Also, with no Austin, I really feel like Flair had no reason to be a heel, only because he lost a no holds barred match against Vince for half of the ownership of WWE at the 2002 Royal Rumble. And thanks to Brock and Heyman, and Vince took back 100% of his ownership. And then, basically Flair claimed that he had one last run left in him as a wrestler. And this was right around the time Flair was losing his confidence. Flair was kind of just like floating around. He wasn't really feeling himself. He's back in WWE, but he's not in that main role that he wants to be in,
Yeah.
which would lead to him, obviously Triple H taking him under his wing. And the rest is history. The rest is history going forward with that.
Well,
But
we wouldn't see that Nature Boy until he was an Evolution. And it was one of those things. Triple H, he told a story where he saw Ric Flair just kind of like slumped over in catering, and he's like, "That's my idol," sitting there, just kind of like perished. So he really did help him become that limousine riding son of a gun. That nature boy Ric Flair when he was in Evolution. And I don't think he really ever lost that until he got to TNA. But whatever.
But you know what? I will have to say, given my whole analysis of this match, Flair put on a surprisingly good match here, I would say, and showed a lot more athleticism than he had in like other matches around this time. Benoit would try to interfere in this match. Referee would end up kicking Benoit out. All of a sudden, here comes Bubba. Bubba hits I believe he hits a cutter on Eddie, and basically Bubba just basically, or no, not Bubba, but Flair crawls over to cover Guerrero, and he picks up the win. And then we would see this little, this is where you put on the little marathon music with Bubba running into the crowd and Benoit chasing them. But yeah, I believe Eddie was great, and they did their best to hide Flair's weaknesses at this stage of his career. The finish didn't really do anybody any favors, but Flair had to win, and this basically set up a feud for Eddie and Benoit while allowing Flair to do so, you would say, because I believe the next pay-per-view, it led to Benoit Guerrero versus Bum Spike.
Yeah.
I believe that was, yeah.
You want me to look?
Yeah, it was Vengeance. So, yeah, that had to have been the next match.
Let's see here. We had, Bubba and Spike, and then Benoit and Eddie. Tag team table match.
Okay.
But here's I think I give this match a little more credit than most people would because it did have storytelling that was centered around the figure four leg lock. This match didn't have much of a purpose, so they kind of gave it a purpose. And you could almost say they overdid the whole figure four story. But, yeah, this was just... If you tell me Ric Flair and Eddie Guerrero are going to be in the same ring, I'm like, oh my god, fuck yeah. And this is just, it's a bland... it was a bland match that I think just happened at the wrong time. It was kind of thrown in there because of Stone Cold. Obviously a lot changed for this pay-per-view. Right. And it just felt off. It just did not need to be here. This could have happened on Monday Night Raw for all I care.
Yeah, I mean, I could pretty much say the same. I mean, this was practically like a Nitro match that was on pay-per-view. Obviously, we would slowly start to see the rise of Guerrero's push in a way, even though he was floating around singles tag team competition at this point of his career. But yeah, and speaking of Guerrero, 15 years ago today, Eddie Guerrero passed away.
Well, shit. I think just for that, I need to put out the 10. There we go. We got the Eddie 10 in the background. Even though you can't fucking... Oh, wait, no, I'll put it up here. Yeah, I was seeing, like, posts about that and stuff. And, yeah, it's, just imagine... I don't want to get off topic, but just imagine if he did survive. Because I think if he survived, Benoit also would have survived. You also have to take that into consideration. And wrestling hasn't really recovered since Benoit. And, we were supposed to see Eddie and Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 22. Just imagine the match we would have gotten. That is the dream match of all dream matches right there. But, yeah. It's depressing because he was sober. He was doing great. And look what happened. It sucks. His demons from the past caught up to him. But the way I kind of look at it is at least we had the best Eddie Guerrero we could have possibly had in his final days.
Yeah. And who knows? Probably going into 22, if he would have survived, we probably would have got a better version of that. So
Oh yeah, him and Sean. I would have hoped Eddie would have went over, but I doubt it. But yeah, that's one of those matches we can only think about.
okay, so going into our women's title match, we had Trish Stratus taking on Molly Holly. Um, Going into this, Molly had beat Trish in a singles match 2 weeks prior on Monday Night Raw to earn this title shot. And after the match, she choked Trish out with Trish's underwear. So that was like, oh, that's very nice.
That might
But
be
the way
that's a privilege to some people.
yeah, I mean, I don't know, but um, the way this was practically the deplorable storyline where they made out Molly Holly was, fat and had a big ass. And this goes on throughout the whole match with the commentators, talking about whether Molly had considered liposuction, etc. Um, Horrible things to say. And Molly is actually a perfectly healthy weight and very attractive, I would probably say.
it's
Uh,
it's like Mickey James. Remember the whole Piggy James storyline?
yeah.
It's just stupid. I don't like when they put body shaming into a storyline. It's just to
And
me, it's just the weakest. Like that's all you could come up with. Really? That's it?
to laugh at the commentary for this because when Molly was setting up for her Molly go round finisher or whatever and missed it, JR is practically like, oh, I think she broke a 2x4 when she landed out of her ass. Oh, dude, that yikes. Oh, but
Yeah.
Molly goes for the Molly go round, and but Trish dodges. She rolls Molly into a pinning predicament, but Molly counters and grabs the tights to pick up the win. Molly Holly is the new women's champion. Um, like I said, deplorable storylines aside, Molly Holly can really go in the ring, especially around this time. Um, this was not the best display from these two, I would say, with some minor mistakes, but it was reasonable, solid overall. The finish was kind of disappointing, but it was nice to see, Molly, get down for the winning the belt here.
Yeah, normally this would be like a dream match. Molly Holly, she's terribly underrated. She's passionate. She wanted to be on WrestleMania 20 so bad that she offered to shave her head. Like that just shows you how much she wanted to be a part of everything, and it kind of sucks that she's not remembered more. Like to me, the Hall of Fame's a crock of shit, but I think she deserves it more than Sunny, more than Ivory, more than Tori Wilson, more than the fucking Bellas, for fuck's sake. Um,
Right.
oh my god, if anyone deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, it's Molly Holly. I think she is phenomenal, and she still got it too. Like I remember when she made an appearance in the Rumble a few years ago. I think it was 2018. Oh my god, dude, she was one of the most talented people there. She had the mom haircut. Like she's driving a minivan to the arena, but you know what? She can kick some ass and she can still go.
Should probably kick a few soccer balls too.
Oh
And
hell yeah!
I believe she also made an appearance in this past Royal Rumble as Mighty Molly. So that was a pretty treat. I believe I believe it was this past Rumble, but I could be mistaken.
Yeah, it was 19 or 20. I'm not sure. I blocked out 2019. That was a horrible fucking Rumble.
But oh gosh, let's get into the the next match. We had Hulk Hogan taking
Oh
on Kurt.
god. I'll tell you what though. How many times have you seen Hulk Hogan tap out?
Not too often.
This was putting Kurt Angle over, man. This is a clean finish. Look, I'm a huge Kurt Angle fan. Um, I'm not a fan of the whole toupee and the little wrestling garment, but you know what? This is actually one of the few times you saw him in wrestling, like a wrestling without like the singlet. You had him in the little Speedo. So that was interesting. And it was just this was a joke, but at the same time, if you think about it, this was huge. He made Hulk Hogan tap. That's the equivalent of making The Undertaker tap. I can't think of a time in WWF/E that Hulk Hogan ever tapped out clean. I did like the finish, the little skirmish. They were going back and forth. Hogan was reversing the ankle lock over and over again. He grabbed the ropes, but then Kurt Angle pulled him away. You're legit just like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And I loved how you had the transition reversal from the leg drop to the ankle lock. That was awesome. Like I dug the hell out of the finish. It's just, me, I don't like comedic wrestling. So, he rips the little toupee off his head. The crowd has a laugh. I just don't like that. Kurt Angle, to me, that's like doing that to Benoit. Like, it's one of the greatest technical wrestlers of all time. So it pains me to see this comedic spot. But at the same time, he made Hogan tap. And that's big. That's really big.
Yeah. Terrible for the time that they tried to pretend that this was a real competitive wrestling match. The lead up to the finish was quite fun, and I would say probably good to see Hogan put over Angle clean with the submission victory too. The right result, I would say, and
yeah,
this was the battle between two American heroes, as the interview that was conducted earlier before this match. But honestly, this match was basically led from, Hulk Hogan was going to retire. Hulk Hogan came down to the ring and he was like, oh, I'm going to retire, yada, yada. But, this wasn't about Kurt Angle, I would say. This was more about the lead up to fighting Mr. McMahon.
Well, I think the next time we'd see him wrestle was No Way Out 2003, right? Against The Rock?
Pay-per-view wise, well, I know he was at the Vengeance pay-per-view because he teamed up with Edge against Billy and Chuck. And then I believe
yeah, you're right. Yep.
And then after he basically got destroyed by Lesnar, that was pretty much the next time we would see Hogan. He faced Rock for the second time at No Way Out. This led to the whole fucking special referee with Sylvain Grenier as a SmackDown referee. Vince screwed him over. These guys finally had a street fight, which was that was an epic street fight. I am not going to lie about that.
WrestleMania 19 is my all-time favorite pay-per-view. And I might be a little biased, but that might be my favorite street fight as well. And you have to look at it this way. Like, let's say we're alive back in 1985. The first WrestleMania. Did you ever think you'd see the day that Vince McMahon would face Hulk Hogan in a street fight at the 19th WrestleMania? Come on. Like, that's kind of... It sounds retarded in the 80s, but it actually happened, in 2003. So it's almost like a punchline to a joke, but it worked really well. I love that match. And then you have the random Roddy Piper cameo, but whatever.
Oh my god, that was All right, so we are now here for the King of the Ring finals. We have Brock Lesnar taking on Rob Van Dam. You know what? This was a solid match for its length, but this was pretty short, as it was just probably over 5 minutes.
5 minutes and 44 seconds.
Also, if we were trying to sell that RVD's back was injured going into this match, that didn't come off at all. And he didn't even sell the back work done by Lesnar, really, I would say. But obviously, we already knew. I think fans were pretty much smart enough at this point on who was going to win this King of the Ring.
Yeah,
Pretty self-explanatory.
I think it's embarrassing that you have the final. Not only did you have 2 semifinals back to back just to kind of get them out of the way in the beginning of the show, but you have a 5-minute final match. It's called King of the Ring for a reason. That should be your main event. You know what? Fuck the main event, Undertaker and Triple H. That was dog shit. That's one of the... Oh, my God. You easily could have reduced that 10 minutes, make that match 13 minutes, and make this one 15 minutes. Easily. That's all you had to do, because the main event was 23 minutes long for some god-awful reason. And this is one of the exceptions. This is one of the exceptions where the title should not go on last. It's called King of the Ring, for fuck's sake. Put the King of the Ring finals in the main event. Or don't call it King of the Ring. That's like having a Hell in a Cell pay-per-view without the Hell in a Cell being in the main event. Oh my God. Yeah. This pissed me off, man.
Now, you want to talk about pointless.
Yeah.
Before going into this match, we probably had the most pointless backstage segment. Triple H heads to the ring for the main event, and he walks into Shawn Michaels, who returned to WWE as a manager for the NWO. Obviously, they look at each other, look like they're about to face off, give each other a hug, because friends don't shake hands, brothers got a hug,
Yeah.
That's they have the stare down, and Nash turns up. They embrace. X-Pac, Shawn, and then you have Big Show, which he just kind of gives him that nod, like, "What's up, Paul?" Like, yeah, we're not really cool, but whatever. And Nash wishes him luck. Yeah.
I wonder why Scott Hall wasn't there for the little quick reunion.
You know what? You know what? Storyline wise, I think that would have been a lot more reasonable instead of having Big Show in that lineup. Like if all five of them were backstage, this storyline probably would have made a lot more sense. But Nash wishes him luck. Getting the belt and everything, and then they follow up with, "Hey, if you need us out there, throw it up. We're here for you, buddy." Which that never fucking happened.
No, it's foreshadowing for a story that never happened.
Yeah, so that was pretty much it. But anyway, going on to the main event of the evening here. We had The Undertaker, who was WWE champion at this time, taking on Triple H. And during this, Paul Heyman joins JR and King on commentary, as Brock Lesnar now has first dibs for the WWE Championship, as he is the 2002 King of the Ring winner, and he advances into the WWE Championship match at SummerSlam. And obviously, Rock is involved with this too, because during another segment, he said, "Oh, I'm going to be keeping my eye on the Undisputed Championship match." Obviously foreshadowing something there.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's put it this way. This was a poor main event. The way I see it, WrestleMania 17 proved that these two could put on a great match together, but nothing even close to that level that was reached here. And Triple H and Taker just half-ass a match until, Rock comes down and, all the shenanigans ensue that really don't lead us anywhere in the end. The Rock didn't really add anything to the match, and his whole involvement was extremely just pointless, I would probably just say. Why did he even bother to run down to the ring and chase Paul Heyman? Why did Undertaker feel the need to deliver a big boot to him when hurt his chances of retaining the Undisputed Championship?
Okay. Let me put this into perspective for you. I'm not everyone is a Dave Meltzer fan, but I am. Um, he gave this match a half a star. Do you know how bad you have to do in a pay-per-view main event to have a half a star? And these are the same people, Undertaker and Triple H at WrestleMania 27, who had like a 4.5-star match. What the hell happened? I'm gonna quote you. What are you doing? Like, this is just like, what the fuck are you doing out there? Like, this is complete horseshit. I watched. I wanted to fall asleep watching this. It's 2002. We've seen some of the greatest pay-per-views and matches of all time in 2002. So what the fuck right did this have? Having half a star, and I don't disagree. This was an awful main event. This was shit. My fucking dog could go outside and take a shit, and I could microwave it, and it would smell better than this match did. This was awful.
Well, I mean, since you have a cat, I don't really think that works. But
I have 2 dogs at my mother's house.
shit.
Okay, I grew up with dogs, not cats. All right. All right, fine. I'll go to
Anyway.
the all right, now I'll go to the litter box, pick up a piece of shit, microwave it, and there you go. That'll taste and smell better than this.
Oh gosh. Okay. Anyway, back to topic of discussion here. Honestly, this whole match was practically just the build up to Rock's return and his title match at Vengeance the following month.
Which was great.
Yeah. You know what? That was a good triple threat match. I am not gonna lie about that.
Yeah.
That pay-per-view, let alone, was stellar, which we will begin into in our next episode of this series. But going into the conclusion of this whole pay-per-view, this was a pretty disappointing show. Now, growing up as a fan, as a kid, obviously these are memories that are going to be engraved in our minds for the rest of our lives. But back then, it was like, oh, this is cool as shit. Like 2002 was the year. The rosters were stacked, and this was a new era of WWF/E as everything was going on. But, despite this being a pretty disappointing show, the mood couldn't have been too great either here with, Austin, who had walked out just prior to this event. All right, here's the pros. I did write some pros and I did write some cons here.
Gee, which pros, one? I wonder which list is longer.
Okay, well, okay. Well, the pros here, the opener, Jericho RVD. It was actually the best match on the card.
I agree.
It's decent but perfectly passable, which kind of sums up the show, really. Brock wins the King of the Ring. That actually had some meaning as he gets a title shot at SummerSlam. Angle was put over by Hogan by submission, though the match wasn't up too much. And Molly wins a well-deserved women's title. Here are my cons. The match quality on this card is pretty low, and there is certainly no match worth going out of your way to see. Brock wins the King of the Ring without really showcasing his true talent. He destroyed Van Dam in 5 minutes. The main event is confusing, shambles, with nobody really putting any great effort in. There's no point of having that whole NWO segment with Kevin Nash and the rest of the NWO with Triple H talking about, hey, bud, if you need us out there, just throw it up. He never even threw it up. And God forbid, you had Rock's involvement in this match, but doing what? He's just there for show. He's basically just there for rating because Austin's not there. And obviously that's the reason why he's at this pay-per-view, because they're bringing him back to hold the title for just 1 month.
Do you know how funny it would have been if Triple H held up the fucking click sign and then you see Kevin Nash running down and he tears his quad halfway down the ring?
Well, I mean, he was pretty close to tearing it anyway. I mean, he would only tear it next month.
Yeah.
So it would have been, you know what? It would have been right then and there, which probably would have made the pay-per-view a lot more disasterful.
Entertaining.
Or,
I hate Kevin Nash, so that's good.
but
Oh, God.
who knows where that would have led? Because that practically just led nowhere. Like, if you weren't going to have a segment, like, or at least some type of segment during the match where the NWO shows up, get rid of that whole backstage segment altogether.
Okay.
That was pointless.
I have a mini rant to go on.
Here we go.
All right. So, a lot of people may disagree. I'm not a fan of squash matches. I personally believe, hear me out, that let's say you have RVD and Brock Lesnar in a 25-minute competitive match, and Brock Lesnar comes out on top. I would personally think that makes him look better than him having a 5-minute squash match. Because you have to look at it this way. A competitive match, whoever that winner is, it's going to elevate them. Because you're like, holy shit, they just won this complete war between their opponent. That will not only put them over with the crowd, but as well as, make them a believer in him. If you have a squash match, the crowd's just going to be like, oh, all right, that's cool, I guess. So, RVD and Brock Lesnar, that match on paper sounds amazing. So there is no excuse that this should have went 5 minutes. That is complete bullshit. Fuck whoever decided that. Because that should have been a great match. I would pay to see that right now to this day. I love Brock Lesnar and I love RVD. Sorry, I do love Brock Lesnar. I do. He's a very intelligent person in terms of the wrestling business when he wants to be.
Oh, I was gonna say, well, you ain't missing much because they would face each other again at the Vengeance pay-per-view.
Yeah, but it's just this. Not only is this a King of the Ring finals match, but this is also a number one contenders match. Don't make it 5 minutes. This is a double whammy. This is the kind of thing you want to make an Iron Man match or a fucking 2 out of 3 falls match. Not some fucking 5-minute shit. Like, fuck you. Like, this honestly. Oh my god. No wonder King of the Ring went away. No wonder. This is bullshit. Fuck this. I hate this pay-per-view. I do.
Well, technically, the King of the Ring pay-per-view was supposed to return at the next year, but ended up becoming or renaming Bad Blood.
Yeah, if you actually look on some of the early pay-per-view inserts of 2003, it does say King of the Ring was supposed to happen.
Yeah. So that would have been interesting, but obviously we understand the whole bad.
I'm glad it died. I'll tell you what, the Monday Night
All
Raw.
right, so you know what? Leading to this question, if they were to have had a 2003 King of the Ring, one, who do you think the winner would be? And two, would the same stimulations, do you think they would have had the same stimulations at this pay-per-view, going on to a main event match at SummerSlam?
You mean stipulations?
Stipulations, yes, that's what I was.
They're not stimulating each other. Holy shit. This thing, yeah.
Yikes.
All right.
Whoops.
I think Benoit is the obvious winner. But, because look at it this way. This would have been June 2003. I think Benoit would have been a perfect choice. And then you have him. I don't think you should have made it a number one contenders match. Make that into the build to WrestleMania. You have him win King of the Ring in 2003. He wins the 4 Rumble. And then he wins the main event of WrestleMania. It's the perfect build. I think that would have made the most sense. I mean, who else would there have been? I could honestly see them doing I could honestly see him doing Shawn Michaels, but yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
The only other man I probably would have saw, because obviously he had that one tenure in WWE, and that was Goldberg.
Oh no! Don't say that.
Dad, I'm sorry. Well, let's
Oh
just put it this. At least we got the second elimination chamber match. Let's just put it that way.
yeah, I was very happy, but we all know that's my least favorite wrestler of all time.
Right. Yep. Same here. You know what? I can't complain. Can't complain about that. But all right. So going into this, even though they took the belt away from Hogan, giving it to Taker, did nothing to improve the quality of the main event match here. What's disappointing for me about this is, the time period is that we see people doing great stuff, but in the undercard. So like people like Angle, Edge, Guerrero, just people of that caliber. And then for clear reason in the main event, we have extremely disappointing matches from guys like Hogan and Undertaker, whose title runs seem to be based more on nostalgia and tenure rather than wrestling ability. On the positive side, we did have some positive change coming. Brock Lesnar's push was coming to the fore, and The Rock returned to be the guy who eventually passed the strap at SummerSlam, with obvious reasons, as we just discussed earlier in the show. Now, giving it a grade. All right, here we go, Willie J. Grade time.
Yours is gonna be better than mine.
All right, I'm actually gonna write this down. I never done this, but I'm actually gonna write it down here.
Okay. Oh man, I would, but I don't have anything available. Actually, I have a Sharpie. What can I write this on? All right, you know what? Here's what we'll do. We'll write it at the same time and show it, so we can't be influenced by the other person's choice. Wait. Don't show it yet.
Okay.
All right, hold on. Hold on. All right, we'll write it on. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. I gave it a D.
I gave it a D plus ick, which stands for dick.
All right, that's fair enough.
Now, the only reason why I gave it a D plus was because obviously some of the storytelling. Obviously, this had some reasoning for watching this pay-per-view. Obviously, you said double whammy. Not only would the person win the King of the Ring tournament, but they're going on to face the WWE champion at SummerSlam. And then obviously the other positives that I mentioned in this show before. Molly getting her well-deserved women's title match victory, winning the women's championship. The opening match that had a slow, bland build, but obviously it picked up later throughout the match. And then obviously Brock winning King of the Ring, which, like I said, you don't have to be, a smart wrestling fan to know, like, hey, Brock's not winning because he did. So,
yeah, this is to me, this is the worst pay-per-view of 2002, and it's actually very interesting how you go from this to Vengeance 2002, because that pay-per-view, it's just like this. I've always said, you have to get to the bottom to get to the top, and we are about to get to the top in the best way possible. So, we're building up to SummerSlam, which to me is probably the best pay-per-view they've ever put on. So, I'm excited.
yeah. And obviously we would see more progressed storytelling I guess you would say, because obviously the NWO story didn't work out. That ended up fading away as soon as Kevin Nash tore up at one of the Monday Night Raw episodes. It was a 10-man tag, and it was I can't recall the participants, but I know Kevin tore his quad. Vince came out the next week in the NWO music, and he was like, "Oh, the NWO is no more." And that's when we were introduced to Eric Bischoff, which led to possibly one of the greatest eras in WWE. That that second half of 2002, and then obviously we would see the return of Shawn Michaels in ring competition, which I wasn't the biggest Shawn Michaels fan, but it was always good. He always did good storytelling. That was the one thing I always appreciated about Shawn Michaels. His storytelling, whether it was verbally or physically, he always knew how to put on, a good show. And we would bear witness to the first ever Elimination Chamber match at Survivor Series,
which is another one of the greatest pay-per-views of all time. So it's interesting. If you ask me what the best SummerSlam is, I say 2002, hands down. And what the best Survivor Series is, 2002. And I know a few people that will say WrestleMania 18 is the greatest WrestleMania of all time. I don't think so. But, are you... I say 19, but 18 is definitely top 10 for me. It's just, this period of 2002 is just, the only reason I'm still doing this is because we are about to get to something great. No Mercy is my favorite B pay-per-view of all time. No Mercy 2002. That is just gold. And, I can't wait. It's going to be cool.
All right, guys. So we're about to wrap things up here with this episode. So let's give out our social media information, Freak.
The next place you can find me is at the AA meeting down the street. But other than that, the DVD Freak on YouTube, and then Instagram and Twitter at the DVD Freak, Snapchat, fuck you JJ, you made me do it. But the DVD Freak, I think, I don't know. I'm actually pretty active on Snapchat, so that's probably the number one way to contact me at this point. So maybe JJ did some good in the world. He made me my antisocial self, made me a little more accessible. And then, of course, the Wrestling DVD Room on Facebook. We're a little over 600 people now. So, I only vision that to be like 100 people. So now that we're over 600, that's awesome. So, it's going great. I thank everyone for that. And that's about it.
And you can also find me on all forms of social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Now you can officially find me on Snapchat, which I can probably account JJ for. Thank you, JJ, for bringing me back for like the third fucking time.
Cheers.
And, of course, you can find me on YouTube at DNTheBeast94. So be sure to hit that subscribe button. Especially if you're going to be watching my videos and you're not subscribed, what are you doing? Hit that button and be sure to subscribe to the Pro Wrestle Zone podcast. This is Dan the Beast 94 along with TV Freak. You guys have a good night.